To join in. Oh, yeah. Are we watching Avengers Endgame right now? Remember, it is recorded. I'm not mad.
I'm not angry.
We can't forget about the aggressive commercial.
Dude, that was hilarious.
Wait, we forgot the animal crackers.
No!
That's how you speak. That's how I'll raise my hand, bro. That's how you speak.
All right. Can you
join with computer audio? There we go. Okay, I think we're working now.
Okay, can you see and hear us okay?
I got you. What a nice room. My goodness.
This is my advanced theater students.
So the advanced kids get couches instead of chairs. Is that the basic distinction?
Yeah, we have we make the other kids sit on hard back, uncomfortable chairs.
Good. That'll learn them.
All right.
How's it going, Brad? I haven't seen you in a minute.
Hey, it's been a while. How have you been?
I'm good, man. You look good as a fam.
Hey, they're amazing. They're doing great. Catherine is down at SUU actually.
That's awesome.
Just kind of crazy. So,
Back in our old hood.
yeah. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell my students a little bit about who you are, where you're coming from today, and what you do.
Good morning, guys. So I'm very happy to be talking to you. Thanks for having me. My name's Craig Lee Thomas. I'm an actor. I currently live out in Los Angeles. Let's see, I'm from Pennsylvania originally. I went to NYU for undergrad at Tisch, and I graduated in 2008. And I did a couple seasons at Utah Shakes, which is how I met your illustrious teacher in 2005, way back. We were hanging and hiking and eating $5 pizza in Cedar City. And I did 3 seasons there. I did a couple musicals, did a bunch of outdoor Shakespeare, and yeah. And then in 2009, after I did some theater in New York for a while, I moved out here to LA, so 10 years ago. And yeah, after moving to LA, I just have been trying to keep busy. I started a sketch comedy group with a couple of my friends when I first moved here, and we produced a web series, and we did tons of sketches and videos and stuff. And then I started working commercially, I guess, first. I did a couple of spots. I was in a Super Bowl commercial in 2012. I think my first TV job out here was probably The Young and the Restless, which is a soap opera, which is a thing that old people watch during the day. I don't know if they know what soap opera. Do they know what soap operas are? I'm not sure.
No. What is soap opera?
Yeah, what is soap opera? In any case, that was my first gig out here, and I've been lucky enough to do some movies and some TV stuff since. I was on How I Met Your Mother, did a bunch of episodes of Jane the Virgin, which was super fun. My episode of Sorry for Your Loss actually just dropped this morning, which is a Facebook watch show with Elizabeth Olsen, which is extremely great. You should watch season 1. I think it's 10 half-hour episodes. It's really, really great. And I'm in the first episode of the new season that dropped today. And yeah, I've also been doing a lot of voiceover lately. A couple of years ago, I took some classes with someone out here who teaches privately, took classes for a year, and then started working for VO too. So I've been narrating some true crime shows, and I did some promos for ABC and tons of commercials and stuff. And I'm going to be in a video game next year, my first video game, which is super exciting. Yeah, so that's it.
Are you able to tell us what the game is?
No, unfortunately. that tends to be the way of it with that kind of thing. But yeah. as soon as I can, I'll send you a link.
Please do. So let's start with tell a little bit of the difference of transitioning from stage to TV and commercial and film. What are some of the difficulties, challenges, and things that students should be aware of and prepared for?
Well, I would say, the classic answer is always, oh, well, stage is big and you know, TV and film acting is small. I think that's kind of a reductive way to think about it. I think it's less about thinking you have to be big on stage and you have to be small for the camera, as much as just like, you always have to be truthful in the moment. That's like the #1 watchword. The only difference is, you know, if you're in a theater where your furthest away person that you're trying to convey ideas to is 400 feet away, that's a very different level of physical performance than, you know, if the camera is as, you know, the camera is sometimes as close as my computer is to my face right now. So you're always truthful in the moment. That's always got to be the first and only concern. But it's everything else is just what you think about. You know, you don't need to convey or show externally as much if the camera is close to you versus if you're outside and on stage. You know, maybe your gestures need to be not a little bigger, but just a little bit more sort of like exposed to make sure that the ideas are being conveyed. So as long as you're being honest, you'll feel it. And then as you get experience, you know, little technical things like volume or about like how much you need to do, quote unquote, will come to you with experience. But I think if you come at it, stage is big and movies are small, that's going to limit you too much, I think, if that makes any sense. So that's sort of just what I try to keep in mind. And you have to do a lot. I mean, the honest to God truth is you have to do a lot less on TV and film. So you don't want to think that it's smaller, but you don't have to do as much. You really don't have to show. Like, the camera gets it, you know, as long as you're experiencing truthfully in the moment and you're having the thought, a lot of the time it doesn't really seem like you're quote unquote doing that much. But that's a really good way to not overact. And it's a really good way to book TV parts. The times that I definitely feel like I'm the most successful in the room for a TV or a film audition is when I go in and I'm just, you know, casual and present and not trying to show.
Good point. So having done both, what are some of your favorite things about stage acting, and what are your favorite aspects of working TV?
Well, I mean, you know, nothing's ever going to beat doing a play. You know, that's always the most fun because of just like the mechanics of it. You know, you actually get to rehearse. Imagine that. You used to get to rehearse if you were on TV or in a movie, but you don't anymore. Nobody has the time and wants to spend the money. You just go and do it. So I miss doing theater a lot. I haven't been able to do much live theater since I moved out here because I've been too busy. But yeah, the camaraderie is something I always miss. Getting to really feel like you get to put in the work is definitely nice. You know, when you're at the level of your career that I'm at, you know, like I'm working my way up. So when I am on TV or in a movie, usually it's coming in to do a job, a scene, a couple of days of work. So you don't get to be, you know, in the character for a long time feeling like you get to put in the work. You kind of just have to go in, know exactly what you're doing, and be cool with just, hey, this is my 1 or 2 takes and I'm out. So that's something I miss about theater. But conversely, you know, doing TV and film is super exciting. You know, you're on the set and you have the mechanics around you, and it's like the whole, you know, it's the whole Hollywood thing. And obviously, like, you get to do a lot of really amazing stuff in TV and movies because of the amount of money they spend on it sometimes. You know, like when I was on Jane, they built a whole hotel in a soundstage for all of our scenes that were in because most of the show took place in the hotel, most of my stuff anyway. So you go into this sound studio and then you walk in and you're in a 30-foot ceiling lobby of what looks like a crazy Miami hotel, but the next room is somebody's kitchen and the next room is a garage. You know, I'm going to be on Criminal Minds next year. And, you know, my little house in the soundstage was right next to a coal mine with a rail cart and like all these rocks and giant piles of debris and stuff. It's like walking to work is a lot more exciting maybe on a TV or a film set than going in the back of a theater, you know, seeing how many granola bars you could steal from somebody.
So tell us a little bit about how, because most of the students, I think, as far as when they were researching and reviewing you, and Jane the Virgin was probably the show that most of them had recognized you from.
Oh, totally, yeah, that was awesome. That was one of my absolute all-time highlight experiences. Not only because, you know, I got to be on a bunch of episodes, which was super awesome, and that was supposed to be, you know, 5 or 6 lines in one episode, and then I just got super lucky that they kind of wrote my character some more stuff to do. So that was incredible. I mean, that was the most that I've ever really gotten to feel like, hey man, this is doing it, because I got to come to table reads and I got to go to fittings, and I was multiple days on set in multiple episodes. So I got to know everybody on that show really well. Justin Baldani, who played Raphael, is one of like the kindest, sweetest people on the planet. Yael Grobwes, who plays Petra, is maybe like the best actor working on TV right now. And she's so sweet. She's just like a ray of sunshine every day. Gina's amazing. Gina and I went to college together. We did not know each other in school. But, you know, I walked over there, hey, you know, like to NYU, they was like, oh man, what's up? That's so cool. We're all sitting around, all the extras and me are sitting around, and she's sitting there. We're all just like talking. She's like, did they bring you guys water? They should get you. This is stupid. I'm going to go get you some water. She runs off. She comes back with like a pallet of water bottles, carrying it herself, and just like gives everybody water bottles. I'm like, yeah, you're number one on the call sheet, executive producer of the show. Still super cool, super down to earth. So that was fun for sure. The team was amazing. I got to work with a lot of female directors. The showrunner, Jenny Snyder-Ehrman, was incredible. It was a very nurturing set. It was a really representative set in terms of like diversity. And like I said, you know, almost all the writers were women. I think 3 out of my 4 directors were women. So that was really nice to work on a show that really felt progressive and forward thinking.
Very cool. So how'd that come about? Tell us a little bit about the process of how'd you find out the audition? Was it agent? How'd that all come together?
Yeah, it was definitely, sorry. Why are you whining? Come here. If you want to be on the webcam, you can. My dog is being very funny.
Oh my God.
You're good. So yeah, I got that job through, I got that audition through my agent. You know, if I could explain how all of that worked, I would work a lot more, because then I would understand it. That is definitely like the obfuscated, impossible reality of it. Is just like, how do you get work? But, you know, long story short, like a bunch of years ago, I did a workshop, which was like, you sort of like pay to meet either casting director and agent. You do a scene. I did a scene. The woman who was there from the certain agency liked me. I met with them. I've been working with them for a really long time. So it's an agent I've worked with for a while. The casting director is another person that I met through workshops, which is something that it doesn't really happen as much anymore. There was kind of a big kerfuffle here in LA with the district attorney. It's a whole thing in terms of like the legality of these workshops. But in any case, I met the casting director, Jonathan Clay Harris, at the workshop. So I knew him. So presumably he had seen my face before. Basically, like a TV show has a casting director. The writers give a breakdown of all the characters. So for that episode, it was, you know, like Elvis, 20s to 30s, seems like an idiot, but he's actually shady, or whatever the heck it was. You know, they get 2,000 or 3,000 submissions for guys in their 20s and 30s. The casting director picks maybe 50 people to see. They bring in about 30 of them. I went onto the lot at CBS. I read 2 scenes super quickly, and I just took my biggest swing and, you know, made a choice. And yeah, that's how I got the job. And when I was on set, you know, it's weird. It's like I worked with a bunch of directors, because every episode usually has a different director, unless it's like an HBO show or like a creator, kind of a creator-driven show. TV shows with 22 episodes, they might have 18 different directors. Like they need more. They need a lot of people to be working on them, because it takes so much work to put an episode together, and they're in pre-production for one episode while you're shooting the next one. So it's so many things falling into place, because the first director, when I was on set, he's the one who saw my audition. So even though I did 3 episodes after that for 2 other different people, I just got lucky that on the day I did a good job, and my tape matched what this one guy's idea of the character was, because I think I made the turn to be a little bit more suspicious and threatening, maybe, when the character seemed like kind of a dope. So if that hadn't been the way he saw the character, I probably wouldn't have gotten cast. So it's a lot of things lining up for sure. But, you know, every audition is an at-bat, and you just got to think of it like, okay, I'm going to go and do the best job I can today. Then you just leave it behind. Don't think about it. And then hopefully you get a good call like I did that day, which was really nice.
Cool. We're gonna go ahead and I know our students have a lot of questions that they're excited to ask you.
Of course.
We'll start us off.
All right, in the green, sitting on the floor, why not? Or you could call him. You probably have a better conception of calling it out than I do.
All right, Cassie, go for it.
How do you feel that like television audition or like movie or voice auditioning differs from theater and stage auditioning?
I mean, it's like I said before, The mechanics of it are going to be completely different because, well, honestly, not really that much anymore. You know, no matter what you're doing, you're probably going into a small, oddly lit room that's either too hot or too cold and performing for people that are barely interested in listening. That's true across the board, which is nice. That's the baseline, no matter if you're doing stage or film. But like I said, you know, like, you have an opportunity to win the room a little bit more with a theatrical audition. You might actually be in a theater. On a rare occasion, you might actually be like on stage. So you always just, you know your audience and play the room. You know, you can't be super small and contained if your audition is at the theater and the table that everybody's sitting at is 5 rows back. You got to make sure that you can fill the space, and you need to prove that your instrument can fill the space too. With TV and film, obviously that's not as much of a concern. You are going to be taped for TV and film, so there's a ton of things that you need to just keep in mind mechanics wise for a television and film audition. Like, I know this, I'm terribly backlit. I just moved, and this is like the only computer I have up, so I know the lighting for me right now is awful, and I'm not setting a very good example. But like, this is not too dissimilar from the framing for like a TV and film audition. If my scene was sitting down, obviously I would not be insanely backlit like this. But, you know, one thing out of the gate, just mechanics wise, this is something that just sort of naturally, as you're doing your scene and you're reading, happens a lot, either because of nerves or because of wanting to like really convey your, you know, truth to your partner. We rock back and forth. How weird is this? How annoying is this to watch if you're watching my 30-second audition and I do this a million times? You look like an idiot. It feels natural in the room. It might even be natural if this was, you know, if this was a play and the scene was, you know, me and somebody at a table, you know, just kind of scooting around your seat, because it's easy to watch in person. This looks like crap on TV and film. That's one thing I have to train myself constantly is like, plant, just sit there, don't fidget. Get used to just existing in the space, you know, maybe for that one clincher line. And that's what I told you, Rico, whatever the hell this stupid line is, you know, whatever the heck the stupid line is. You know, make one choice just to make sure that you're not constantly rocking back and forth. Something as silly as that. Eye line is a big deal, you know, like making sure that, like, you know, if this is the, you know, pop your person off, you know, you don't necessarily want to put the person that you're talking to all the way over here, because then you're just getting like one half of face, but you also don't want to deliver it right to the camera, because then people are like, why is he looking at me? What's happening? So just practicing, like, whoever you're reading with, popping them off. If you talk to multiple people, you know, this eye line, and then I could talk to somebody else, and, you know, maybe somebody's over here, but you also don't want to be like ping-ponging all over the place, because it also makes you look silly. All they're looking at is the little tiny box with your head in it, and you just want to make sure that you look natural and comfortable and contextual for the scene, if that makes any sense, I would say. Whereas, like I said, on stage, you want to prove that you could fill the space. You might want to take the space a little bit more too. You don't want to be striding all over the place and crossing frame and, you know, not frame, crossing all over the stage if it doesn't justify it. But, you know, the space in a theater is the theater. So fill the space with your artistic sensibility, what feels appropriate. The space with TV and film is so much smaller. So it's not that you're small, it's that you're fully occupying a space that happens to be smaller, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Braxton.
What is your favorite voiceover job?
Oh, favorite VO job? I don't know. The true crime show I did last year was insanely fun, because I got to do the classic, like, the blood splatter on the car matched the DNA found at the scene. They knew they'd found the killer. Like, I got to do the most cliche, completely down the middle, exactly what you'd think it would sound like voice. And it was a lot of stuff. It'd be 30 or 35 pages of copy per episode, because I was narrating it. So that was really challenging. The video game I just did was a blast, because, you know, you're just in the booth going crazy. Oh, I had to go home and change after. I was sweating. I was like, man, okay, note to self, next video game, wear gym clothes. Like, it was exhausting. It was so much like physical work. That was a blast. I really love commercials, weirdly enough, as boring as they are. Like, I teach commercial voiceover. I have a class tonight, actually, and I like direct people's demos and I coach people. I nerd out over commercials because I just think they're interesting the way they're written. And a lot of times, you know, I was a big English nerd, as I'm sure most of you guys are, when I was in school. And there's a lot of like text analysis fun. Come here, bud. She doesn't want to be here. There's a lot of text analysis fun to be had with commercials. So I did some Dunkin' Donuts commercials that were super fun. Even silly things like I got to be a helpful Honda person for North Texas Honda once. So instead of being a regular Honda person, I was a helpful North Texas Honda person. We're here to offer you a random act of helpfulness. We're going to replace the carpet in your living room. That's because Honda cared. Like, I got to be like pretending I was from Texas, and in the job, I walked in and I didn't say anything, and we just started recording. We recorded for like an hour, and after the booth director said, "So where are you from?" I was like, "Oh, I'm from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania." He's like, "What?" Like, "No, like, where in Texas are you from?" I was like, "I don't know what to tell you, man. I'm from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania." I could tell he was mad that they cast me because he thought I was actually from Texas, and I was like, "Yes, mission accomplished."
Speaking of commercials, I think Rocco has a commercial question for you.
I have a commercial answer, maybe.
So I was looking on IMDb and some of the stuff that you've been in, and I saw what looked like a Progressive commercial.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think you know.
And then I'm sure you watched it and went, "What the heck is that?"
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh, that was you?
I'm not in that sketch much, but it's certainly not safe for work. The things I do in that sketch for sure. So yeah, that was a buddy of mine. A buddy, like sketch comedy and stuff. Like, fake commercials are obviously super popular. A friend of mine really wanted to do a fake commercial. Me and my other friends kind of played like the goons. I was on set for a couple hours, got to, shoot the gecko in the head. Just another day at the office,
All right, Amber.
So going back to voice acting, what's like the strangest thing about voice acting?
It's being in the booth is weird. You're in a little tiny room that on purpose is so quiet when you're not used to it. You have that kind of like seashell over your ear thing. You're like, you could hear yourself like breathing and swallowing and stuff. So getting used to that, getting used to hearing yourself immediately in your own cans is super weird. My dog has lost her ball under the couch. I will be back in 11 seconds. I'm sorry. Luna! Down with you. Goodness, buddy. Here you go. All right. We're going to hold on to this for the duration of this class because she is sorry. So yeah, that would be that'd be word one on VO for sure. Getting used to just having to be super crisp too. You'll say, I'm trying to think, I did a commercial this past week, like Covered California offers your employees an HMO or PPO plan that's right for them and you. So the price is always right. Let's say that's the line. You need to be super okay with saying it 5 times in a row, a little bit different every time. And then being able to have somebody say, "Okay, that was nice, but let's lift on HMO, take a little pause after PPO, and then really drive through, but then make sure it's nice and bright at the end." You're going, "How does what did you just say?" You need to get used to being okay. Covered California offers you an HMO or PPO plan that's always right for you and your employees. So the price is always right. Like, okay, I took that pause, I drove through, I think I lifted it at the end. Maybe I need to do it 45 more times. That's like with commercial voiceover, that's the thing to get used to. It's just like, you go in, they don't necessarily know what they want. You need to be really crisp. You need to get used to just being able to say the same things over and over again and have a plan by having done your homework. That's really the only way out. That's definitely what I teach, is just like, I think the way through in commercial VO is just like doing your work, writing yourself a map, getting used to all the different things you can do. I talk a lot when I teach about all the different ways you could say the simplest line. You have control over the pitch of your voice. This is sort of where my voice sits normally, but I could speak a little deeper if I want, or I can kind of be up here and be a little bit brighter. You could speak more slowly in general, or you could speak quickly and clip through. You could take odd pauses that sort of make the listener sit forward a little bit. There's a million different things you have control over. So just getting facility with all the ways that you can sort of like craft your voice like an instrument. That's definitely the weirdest thing about VO. But you don't have to do your hair or shower ever, which is nice. So you get to just be smelly and look weird. So that's my favorite thing about voiceover work, I would say. No hair and makeup.
All right, Jared.
Hi, I was wondering, you said you were on Broadway for a while. Can you elaborate on like what you did while you were there?
I was never lucky enough to work on Broadway. I did a ton of theater in New York. It was always off Broadway. Yeah, I worked a lot in like lower Manhattan theater. So like people writing new plays, people writing new work, smaller shows and stuff, which was so much fun. Cause I mean, doing a new play is amazing because the writer usually works with you. You're kind of finding it together. You get to be the first person that takes a crack at something. Like that's super exciting and very vital versus like, you know, it's fun to do Death of a Salesman, but you are not the first or the 100th or the 1,000th person to play Biff. You know, you're just kind of getting in line with everybody else. So it's fun to do new theater, you know, it's more exciting. It's a little bit more raw a lot of the time. And I got to play a lot of weirdos for sure. I did the last show I did in New York. I did the premiere of a play where I played this guy who lived on the street and he huffed spray paint out of a brown paper bag and he had a baseball bat and he basically just menaced everybody on stage, including the lead character who he popped in the back of the head at one point. And then a bunch of other very gross, not appropriate for school things happened. But, you know, I got to play a street kid, like a crazy, addled, damaged, dangerous person. And I'm like a total nerd. So that was super fun to get to be somebody completely different, you know. You know, you do downtown theater and you do independent theater. A lot of times it's like you get to play a lot of different characters. I did a play where I played like 7 different people, including like the ghost of Jimmy Carter and one of the lead's boyfriends and a terrorist and a news anchor and someone who was like 65 years old, like all within the context of a play. The only, you know, it's not like we're having complete costume and makeup changes. I change my tie or I put on a hat or I take off my glasses and you get to use your physicality and your voice to kind of convey those different characters. So those are my favorite things about doing like theater in New York for sure. But I also did like a production of Richard III where we didn't cut anything and it was 4.5 hours long and it was horrible. And my wife, who I just started dating at the time, like I brought her to see it. It's like, it's lucky the relationship lasted through that show because it was so boring. So you take some swings and misses when you do independent theater for sure.
All right, Carly.
So you mentioned that you were on Criminal Minds, or like you're going to be on Criminal
Yes.
Minds. What are you most looking forward to with that?
I mean, getting to see it, you know, I shot it months ago now. It was my 18th time auditioning for that show.
Oh, wow.
18 times over the last like 5 or 6 years. I am super close with the casting director, obviously, after this amount of time. Good Lord. So it's on her for bringing me back so many times. I got close a bunch of times. I got cast 2 years ago. I was getting ready to go to the table read, and she called me and she said, "Hi, you know how you're playing the gruff ER doctor? Yeah, all of those lines just got given to the kindly gynecologist, so we're not going to be needing you today. I'm really sorry." So, like, them's the breaks sometimes. I was on my way to go to work, and they were like, "Hey, we just wrote you out. I'm really sorry about that." So just the fact that it happened is enough for me to be like, oh, thank God, it's the last season. So I snuck it in literally 2 episodes before the end after trying almost 24 times to get on the show. And again, I cannot speak about who I am or what I do, but oh man, it was fun. And if you've seen that show, it's insane. I don't know how anybody watches it. It's so violent and crazy. And well, you are not going to be disappointed. Yeah, it's nuts.
That'll be fun. All right, Cameron.
So what of the industries, voiceover, live theater, or film, is the hardest to get into, and what's like one thing that can consistently help you get jobs?
You have to do the work. I mean, that's such a dumb, like, old person answer. You guys are all like 16 years old. You're like, I know, and I don't want to. That's how I was too. But yeah, that's the answer. You know, it's really, really hard to pursue acting as a career because there's a lot of people that want to do it, and there's not as much work as there are people that want to do it. So any industry that's competitive, that's true. It's very difficult to support yourself being an actor. So I think the answer is you have to do as many things as you can. You know, I really started cooking out here when I, you know, just acknowledged, what are you chewing on? You're fine. When I really just acknowledged that I needed to be pursuing a bunch of different things. It wasn't enough to just be like, I want to be on TV, I want to do movies. You really have to you got to keep as many irons in the fire as you can. I would say voiceover is really hard to get into because people are turning to it a lot now because TV and film work is drying up. So actors are going, well, I know how to talk, I can do it. So I would say each one is difficult to get into, but the one thing that you can choose to do to consistently increase your chances is to just is to train hard, is to do the work, and to just be as persistent at it as you can. I have a lot of friends who want to break into VO and they just want to get in the booth and start to talk. But, I took classes for, 2 or 3 hours a month for over a year privately with this person. Before I even recorded my demo, I worked for a month on my demo. And then that was how I got into commercial voiceover. And I've been taking classes and teaching classes and coaching people ever since. So you just have to constantly be working at it. So depending on where you move to too, you're going to be doing a heck of a lot more live theater in Milwaukee, where there's Milwaukee rep, but no TV and film. You're going to be working a heck of a lot more in TV and film in Los Angeles than theater, where there's not as much theater as somewhere like Cincinnati or New York or Philadelphia or, Salt Lake City or any number of other cities. So, it's a dumb answer, but it is the right answer. It's just get as many irons in the fire as you can, meet as many people as you can. This is such a networking business. It is such a networking industry. It's insane. So just do lots of stuff with lots of people and be really nice and considerate and professional to everyone you meet. And you will work more than people who either don't work as hard or who are jerks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Trista.
Have you ever had to work a scene where you had to play two different characters in one scene?
Yeah, yes and no. I think that the play I was referencing before, Sleeper, that a buddy of mine wrote, where I played a million different characters. You make sharp transitions for sure, and that's where, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but that's where the work comes in. Rather than just being vague in your head. Okay, I'm this guy, and then I'm this guy, so I'll just kind of do it. It's well, no. How are they different? What's the physicality differences? What are the differences in their posture? What are the differences in the way they breathe? What are the differences in the way they look around? What are their different circumstances? If you have all these things, what are the differences in how they speak? That's a huge thing. Having those differences really rehearsed and really practiced makes you be able to make sharp transitions if you're playing more than one character in a scene. And sharpness and specificity in any kind of work is always the most important thing that you can do, for sure.
Cool. Jordan.
What's what are those weird traditions that you have before going into a performance or an audition? Something that's not strictly related to theater, but something you always do.
I don't know. I wear a St. Genesius medal that someone who I was very close to when I was younger, that I did a lot of community theater with, who has since passed away. He gave this to me as a graduation present when I graduated from high school. So I always wear this when I can. Obviously, sometimes the character demands that I not have a necklace on, but usually, I don't even know if you can see it. Even when I have a t-shirt on, you usually can't see it. But when I was at Utah Shakes, I would always rub it 3 times, kiss my fingers, and kiss it up to God. That was kind of my little dumb tradition before I'd go on stage. I would say in general, when I'm on set, a lot of the time, for me personally in my process, being on set is so boring. It is hurry up and wait to the nth degree. You'll be on set for 11 hours and work for 20 minutes, but you don't know when that 20 minutes is. And you need to be ready for it at every possible moment, because you can't slow things down or they will fire you. So that's the hardest thing about doing TV and film work, is just they will leave you in your trailer and you'll be super comfortable, but somebody could knock on your door in 5 minutes and you could be on set and have to do your thing, or it could be 4 hours and you won't know, and neither will anybody else. So I know some people that they nap and then they wake up and they do it, or they distract themselves, they read. I always bring a ton of stuff to do. I find I can't really do anything. I kind of really need to just focus on my breathing and almost not meditate, but I definitely need to be in a Zen kind of place. in order to be, you know, knock, 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 ready to go at a moment's notice, you know. But that's just me. So those are definitely some things in my process that I do for sure.
Okay. Go for it, Abby.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see this. So, are you like a big fan of like the shows that you do, or do you just like do whatever you can?
Oh, did he freeze?
What
you do?
Yeah.
Jinx
Witch.
You should be able to.
Oh, sorry, our Wi-Fi went out.
Oh, that's okay. Can you see me and hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, I hear you.
Yeah, we got you back.
Okay.
I missed that last question. Sorry.
Okay. So are you like a fan of the shows you do, or do you just do whatever you can?
Well, I don't have the luxury of being choosy. Unfortunately, you gotta work. You gotta do what you can to put the lights on. I mean, it's a good question. You know, like the answer is you need to be a fan of whatever you get hired to do, and you need to be a fan of everything. We've all watched a million shows. I'm sure you'll concede, like the young lady whose favorite show is Criminal Minds. Criminal Minds is very different from Jane the Virgin. The acting on Criminal Minds is very different from Jane the Virgin. They're both great shows. They're both, you know, shows about people doing things. But like, if you do what you do in a Jane the Virgin audition at Criminal Minds, it's not going to serve you, and vice versa. You know, you need to be a student of the styles of things you want to do. You know, the way you speak if you're auditioning for King Lear is very different than the way you speak if you're auditioning for Three Sisters. It's the same thing. So what you do is you watch I've watched the pilots of a lot of shows. I've watched a random episode of season 6 of almost every TV show, because before you go in, you know, you can't be a fan of every show. You don't like everything. There's not enough time. There's so many darn television shows now with all the streaming things that are happening, everything. You can't possibly watch everything, but you need to be a fan of everything you go in for sure. And the nice thing about, you know, this day and age, I don't know how people did it in the 80s and 90s with, you know, you probably did just have to watch everything, or you just had to take a swing and guess. But you can at least, even if it's in the car, you know, as you park at the audition, you can at least watch a little bit of a show and go, okay, I've got the vibe. They seem to be a little bigger on this show. Oh, they seem to be a little bit more direct. Oh, it really seems like the acting on this is super understated. I better go in and just really do nothing. So you need to be a fan of the things you audition for sure. There are things that I audition for that I'm obviously like super stoked about versus other things, you know. My wife really liked Jane the Virgin, so that was really fun when I got to work on it because she was super excited. But, you know, other things that I've auditioned for and worked on, you know, maybe I wasn't as much of a fan of. So you get the gist, you go in, you do your job, it's fun, you meet everybody, and you go home.
Cool. All right. Jimmy.
You mentioned you like commercials. What's your favorite commercial you've done, and what was your Super Bowl commercial that you were in?
The Super Bowl commercial was 2012. It was a Budweiser commercial, so it was a big set. That was super fun. You can find it online. I think it's called Return of the King, not the Lord of the Rings. I think that's what the spot is called. It was I think it was the Super Bowl spot in 2012. It was set in it was like the day Prohibition got canceled, and I was like a newsboy. I was newsboy. That was my character. So I had my little cap, and we were on New York Street in Universal Studios, which is a street that looks like New York. Big surprise, Hollywood secret. New York Street looks like New York. But it's this big 4-block existing thing they have that you turn the corner from a parking lot and you are in Lower Manhattan all of a sudden. Buildings, sidewalks, sewer grates, curbs. It's New York, and that's where they shoot a lot of exteriors for stuff. So we were on that set all day, working with a huge director, working with a huge cast. There were like 150 extras, and I got to, you know, hold the newspaper over my head and Prohibition is over, like a real nerd. But my main shot was sprinting as fast as I could up New York Street as the director and one camera operator were sitting on the back of a golf cart And he was like, run as fast as you can. Just try to keep up with the golf cart because I want this to cook. So it was literally like doing suicides back in gym class all day, basically, in dress shoes and wool pants and suspenders. So that was a blast. But that's how I got the audition too. It was a lineup of dudes, and it was literally just like, imagine that it's the 20s. And you're feeling the depression. And it's just like standing and emoting. And he literally from the back was like, excuse me, Craig, you look like a runner. Are you a runner? And I was like, I will say yes to whatever you ask me. I need this job. Yes. The answer is always yes. He's like, can you run for me? I want to see you run. You look lanky. So I literally like, okay. I went into this whole area of the office building I was very clearly not supposed to be in. All these people are working like, what the hell are you doing? And I just hauled butt as fast as I could back to the room. I knocked stuff off people's desks. I was like, I do not care. I need this job. I will do whatever you need me to do. He's like, oh, thanks, mate. That looked good. And that was what I did in the spot, was just run like an idiot. That was fun. I don't know. I did a couple of Dunkin' Donuts commercials last year that were super fun. Because again, I got to do kind of a goofy voice, kind of like the deep, like cool, awesome guy voice talking about bacon. So that was fun. Because I got to get a donut afterward and be like, I deserve this, you know. This is research. This is for my job.
All right, Ashley.
I saw that on your Instagram. You're an animal cracker enthusiast. What's your favorite animal cracker?
Well, listen, Barnum's animal crackers are great. They're a little bit more Grammy, so that's fine. I liked them better when they came in that little box. This is before your time. They little circus box with the string. I don't know, but that was my OG. But you know, we all know what I'm talking about. The clear plastic round container with the puffy ones. Yeah. Those are the greatest snack of all time, obviously. I can't buy them. I can't have them in my home because I eat them all. So it's always a treat for me. I would say the pink frosted with the sprinkles on the back, that's a little much, you know? They're tasty, but it's gilding the lily. I'm not a fan of them. I think that it's excessive, and I think it's ostentatious. So I would say that's where I live. Trader Joe's are the best. Trader Joe's animal crackers, for sure.
I will find some.
That's the most important piece of information I've conveyed thus far, obviously.
Okay, Emily. Oh, you should probably step in the camera because you were like a baby when he last saw you.
Whoa! What up? Holy smokes. Time marches inexorably forward.
Yes,
terrifying. Hello.
Hi. Okay, so since you've had experience performing in so many different spaces, like on stage, outdoors, sound stages, like what's your favorite place to act in and why?
Oh my God. I mean, there's only one answer. It's the Adams Memorial Theater at the Utah Shakespeare Festival. They don't do shows there anymore, do they, Brad?
I think the college does one a year now. I think that's it.
It's amazing. We're talking about the Utah Shakespeare Festival at SUU. It's amazing the renovations they've done. I'm sure their new spaces are amazing, but Utah Shakes on SUU's campus had a Globe Theater replica outdoors that I got to do shows for a couple of summers when I was in college. It was literally almost 15 years ago. I think about it all the time. Like literally, like I still well up when I think about how incredible it was to be outside, 75 degrees, no humidity, stars everywhere, just quiet in a room full of people around you, just listening. Like that was to this day, like the most like unbelievable artistic experience of my life was getting to do Shakespeare outside. That was so rad. Getting to have a sword and like run around and yell and scream and get punched in the head by Jamie every darn show, Coriolanus, because he couldn't hit his mark. That was the best, for sure. That was the bomb. Don't punch each other in the head when you do theater, even if you're the lead. There's another tidbit of information for you. It's not cool to miss. Oh, sorry, man. Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, Shady.
So if you could act on any show that you've ever wanted to, which would it be?
Oh my God, that's an extremely good question. I think right now it'd be The Last Kingdom. I don't know if I can't advocate I mean, this is a show that is a bit mature. It's on Netflix. I mean, I don't need it. Everybody watches everything right now. Oh my gosh, it's my favorite. So without tacitly endorsing something to a bunch of high schoolers that maybe is like TV, PG-13, TVMA, it's about a Viking. It's swords and it's magic. It's the whole thing. It's like Game of Thrones if Game of Thrones was good, basically, I would say. It's not, they're not going to hire me. It's not on anymore. I could say that all I want. That show's amazing. I love Fargo. Again, another show that I should not be advocating. The Good Place. Holy smokes. It's over now, but I really wish I could have worked on that show. All of my favorite comedians are on that show and such amazing actors. So it's not on anymore, but that would have been something that would have been really fun to sneak into for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's going to wrap up our time with you.
My pleasure, guys.
That was incredible. Thank you for your insight, for your humor. We sure appreciate having you.
No problem. It was great.
Guys,
Oh, there.
You were terrible.
All right. Thanks so much, Craig.
Thanks, Brad.